Hello everybody, my name is Miss Simmons. I'm an English teacher here at Egan High School, and I'm going to be helping Miss Spees out. I will begin reading Act II, Scene 1 with you. We will stop and review and talk about the text periodically, and then I'll let you finish reading on your own. Before we begin Act II, Scene 1, let's do a quick review of the end of Act 1, Scene 2. So Ruth faints while Mama is pruning her single plant and talking about the garden she wishes to have. The following day, Ruth goes to the doctor. While at the doctor, Mama receives her $10,000 check. Now, Travis, Mama, and Benitha are home when she receives the check, and there's much excitement in the house. Shortly after, Ruth comes home looking very melancholy. Mama asks Ruth what the doctor said, and Ruth lets it slip that she went to see a female doctor. Mama knows this isn't right because the licensed doctor they see is a male. Mama begins to question Ruth further about who she went to see, and Ruth finally admits that yes, she went to see that lady. Now, that lady is a woman that will perform an abortion for Ruth if she asks. Ruth did not have an abortion that day, but she went to see that woman about it. So Ruth is thinking about aborting her child, to which Mama is very upset, because Mama, in her household, she says, life is valued and we do not get rid of our children. As Ruth and Mama are having this conversation, Walter comes home and is excited about the check. He wants to sit down with Mama and show her the paperwork to buy a liquor store. Mama refuses and says she doesn't ever want to talk about this issue again, that buying a liquor store is not for her family. Walter then gets very upset, and Ruth ends up leaving the room. Mama sits Walter down and tells him that his wife is pregnant and is thinking about aborting his child. Mama demands that Walter tell Ruth she needs to keep that baby. Be the man Mama raised, and you keep that baby. Walter neither agrees with Mama nor disagrees with Mama. He simply sits in silence. It's there that we're going to pick up with Scene 2, Act 1. Now, I have posted an online text. If for some reason you can't find your paper copy, or you're at home doing homework and maybe you just don't have it on you, in order to get to it, if you go to the materials, into our Unit 3 Raisin in the Sun folder, and then at the very bottom you will see Raisin in the Sun full text. I'm going to be reading from this text today, and we are going to start on page 78, Act 2, Scene 1. If you're choosing to use our paper copy from class, we'll be beginning on page 45. Now, before we begin the chapter, it's important to note that, excuse me, what you're going to see here is Walter and Benitha interpreting what they think Nigerian culture is. Now, yes, they are Black and they are African Americans. However, we can say with reasonable confidence, based on what we know about the author of the book and the play itself, that Walter and Benitha were born here in the United States, right, as was Mama and her husband and her parents before her. So we can say with reasonable certainty that their lineage is from slavery. So they've never been to Africa. Therefore, the ideas they have of Africa are the ideas that are displayed to them in the United States. Back in the 50s, those ideas would not be flattering or positive. So the ideas that Ruth and Walter express here are stereotypes. So let's begin. Later the same day, Ruth is ironing as Benitha's door swings open. Ruth says, "What have you got on tonight?" Benitha emerging from her room, wearing the robes that Assegai brought her from his sister's personal wardrobe. "You are looking at what a well-dressed Nigerian woman wears. Isn't it beautiful? Enough of this assimilation junk. Akamungasai. So let's stop and talk about that word assimilationist. What that means is to take on the culture of the majority. Now in the United States at this time, the culture of the majority was white, right? So for a black woman with kinky hair, that would mean flattening your hair, maybe using skin cream to lighten yourself. It would not be wearing more authentic robes of an African culture. So she says, I'm done with that. I want to embrace my African heritage. So enough assimilationist junk. Ruth jumps after Beneatha yells Akamungasai. The music comes on, a lively Nigerian melody. Beneatha says, back to the past. What kind of dance is that? Beneatha replies, a folk dance. Ruth, what kind of folks do that, honey? Beneatha, it's from Nigeria. It's a dance of welcome. Who are you welcoming? The men back to the village. Where they been? How should I know? Out hunting or something? Anyway, they are coming back now. Now, right now, Beneatha's being very serious about this. She really wants to get in touch with and embrace a part of her that she hasn't been allowed to ever, which would be her African heritage and culture, whether she be Nigerian or not. So this is very serious for Beneatha. Ruth says, well, that's good. And Beneatha sings along with the recorder, Alundi, 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 Aluya. At this point, Walter comes in during the performance. He has obviously been drinking. He leans against the door heavily and watches his sister, at first with distaste. Distaste means he does not like what he sees his sister doing. Then his eyes look off, back to the past, as he lifts both his fists to the roof, screaming. Walter, yeah, and Ethiopia stretched forth her hands again. Ruth, dryly, yes, and Africa sure is claiming her own tonight. So this is a little playful now between Ruth and Walter, okay? Which is different than what we saw earlier in the day when Ruth and Walter were very upset. Walter, in a drunken, dramatic shout, shut up, I'm digging them drums. Them drums move me. He makes his weaving way to his wife's face and leans in close to her. In my heart of hearts, I am much a warrior. So again, he's flirting with her and having fun with Beneatha. Ruth, without even looking up, in your heart of hearts, you are much drunker. So she says, you're very drunk. Walter, coming away from her and starting to wander around the room. Me and Jomo, intently in his sister's face. She stopped dancing to watch him. This is my man, Kenyatta. Flaming spear, hot damn, Akamungasai. Beneatha. Now, we see Beneatha, after watching her brother and the good mood he is in, starts to encourage him. So now we've gone from this seriousness of embracing my culture to I see an opportunity to have a fun moment with my brother at the expense of someone else's culture, right? Akamungasai, flaming spear. Walter, the lion is waking. Oimui. He pulls his shirt open and leaps up on the table and gestures with his spear. Now I want to pause for a moment. This Okamungasai is actually a word that is a greeting of hello in Nigerian. However, the Oimui means nothing. So you can see that Beneatha maybe has picked a term or two up from Asagai and is beginning to use them. But then Walter with the Oimui continues to mock and make fun of African languages. And Beneatha starts to join in with him. Oimui. Walter, on the table, very far gone, his eyes pure glass sheets. He sees what we cannot, that he is a leader of his people, a great chief, a descendant of Shaka, and that the hour to march has come. Listen, my black brothers. Beneatha, Akamukasai. Walter, do you hear the waters rushing against the shores of the coastlands? Beneatha, Akamugasai. Walter, do you hear the screeching of the cocks in the yonder fields beyond where the chiefs meet in council? for the coming of the mighty war. Beneatha, Akamungasai. And now the lighting shifts subtly to suggest the world of Walter's imagination. So Walter's dream at this point is to own a liquor store to make money because money will provide financial freedom for him. And you can see his desire to be independent come out even in this daydream when he's in a drunken stupor. Right? He wants to be free. He wants to be a leader. He wants to provide for his family. Walter, do you hear the beating of the wings of the birds flying low over the mountains and the low places of our land? Beneatha, Akamungasai. Walter, do you hear the singing of the women, singing the war songs of our fathers to the babies in the great houses, singing the sweet war songs? The doorbell rings. Oh, do you hear me, my black brothers? Beneatha is completely gone now, so she's completely wrapped up in this daydream of Walter's. We hear you, flaming spear. Ruth shuts the phonograph off and opens the door. George Murchison enters. A phonograph is a record player. And now we have George Murchison entering. Walter, telling us to prepare for the greatness of the time. The lights go back to normal and he turns to see George. And Walter says, Black brother. He extends his hand for the fraternal clasp. George's response, Black brother, hell. So right there, just that small exchange between Walter and George tells us a lot about their relationship. Okay? Walter is extending his hand to shake George's, and George refuses. Okay? Ruth, having had enough and being embarrassed now of her family. Beneatha, you got company. What's the matter with you? Walter Lee Younger, get down off that table and stop acting like a fool. Now, I'm going to stop there. Then I'm going to have you continue to read on your own through Act 2, Scene 1, and make sure you're answering study guide questions as you go.